Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. What if the screen in your child's hand is not just a harmless distraction, but a silent force shaping the way they think, feel, and see themselves? What if every notification, every scroll, every flashing image is slowly rewiring their young mind without them or you even realizing it? Behind the glow of technology lies something deeper, something that doesn't just entertain, but controls. And the cost of ignoring it may be greater than we dare to admit. This is what Carl Jung pointed to when he spoke about the hidden power of the unconscious, and how, if left unchecked, it takes over our lives. Children are especially vulnerable because their sense of self is still forming. Their unconscious is wide open, absorbing symbols, images, and emotions without filter. When technology provides endless stimulation, it doesn't just capture their attention, it shapes their inner world in ways we often fail to see. In this video, we will explore Jung's insights into why children are so deeply drawn to phones and the internet. We'll look at the unconscious patterns behind their addiction, the psychological traps hidden within digital life, and the unseen consequences that unfold when the screen becomes their main companion. Most importantly, we'll uncover what you, as a parent, a guide, or simply someone who cares, can do to help them break free from these invisible chains and rediscover balance, meaning, and resilience in a world that never stops demanding their attention. When Carl Jung spoke about the unconscious, he often emphasized how children are uniquely sensitive to the world of images and symbols. Their inner life is shaped less by logic and more by impressions, pictures, and archetypes that sink deep into the psyche. In today's world, the internet and digital games provide an endless flood of such images: bright colors, rapid movements, heroic avatars, virtual rewards that bypass reason and speak directly to the unconscious mind. To a child, these digital archetypes are not just pixels on a screen. They become inner companions, shaping imagination and desire in ways that are difficult to control. This is why the online world feels irresistible. It creates a symbolic reality more stimulating than the ordinary life of family dinners, homework, or even real friendships. Jung would say that this new flood of symbols forms a kind of modern mythology, but one that does not lead to wisdom. It traps the child in cycles of stimulation without deeper meaning. At the same time, every child and teenager carries within them the universal quest for identity and belonging. In Jung's view, the ego develops by seeking recognition. It wants to be seen, valued, affirmed. In the digital world, this recognition is offered instantly. Likes, followers, comments, the illusion of being important to many people. Each notification tells the child, "You exist, you matter." And while this may sound harmless, it quickly becomes a substitute for real affirmation, which is slower, messier, and rooted in human connection. Jung warned that the ego, when overly dependent on external validation, becomes fragile. And this is exactly what happens when a teenager ties their sense of self to an online profile. The deeper issue is not simply time spent on screens, but the way the digital world hijacks a fundamental stage of psychological growth. And then there is boredom, something most parents and children fear, but Jung understood differently. He believed that boredom is not an emptiness to be escaped, but a signal of the soul's hunger for meaning. In the silence of boredom, creativity and imagination can be born. But when a child reaches for the phone the moment boredom appears, the screen fills the gap with noise, with endless distraction, tricking the psyche into thinking the hunger has been fed. Instead of creating, the child consumes. Instead of turning inward, they scroll outward. This substitution leaves the deeper hunger untouched, which is why the phone must be picked up again and again. Like drinking salt water to quench thirst. Finally, we must consider the lure of instant gratification. The human brain, especially the developing brain of a child, is wired to respond strongly to reward. Each video, each win in a game, each new message triggers a small release of dopamine, creating a cycle of expectation and satisfaction. But unlike natural rewards, finishing a task, learning a skill, or receiving genuine affection, the digital reward comes instantly, with no effort, no waiting. Jung described the shadow as the hidden part of the psyche that contains repressed desires, impulses, and fears. In many ways, the algorithms of social media and games act like a modern shadow. They study the child's unspoken preferences, feed them what they secretly crave, and pull them deeper into patterns they do not consciously choose. The child believes they are in control, but in reality, their unconscious cravings are being mirrored back to them, reinforced and exploited by systems designed for profit, not growth. This is why addiction to phones and the internet cannot be dismissed as mere laziness or weakness. It is a perfect storm. Symbols that capture the unconscious, false recognition that shapes the ego, distractions that silence the hunger for meaning, and rewards that awaken the shadow. Together, these forces weave a psychological net that tightens around the child, leaving them restless when the phone is taken away and empty when it is returned. For Jung, the danger is not technology itself, but the way it interacts with the most vulnerable layers of the psyche, layers that, if left unguarded, can be directed not by the child's true self, but by the unconscious forces hiding in the glow of a screen. The psychological consequences of a child's dependence on phones and the internet reach far beyond simple distraction. At first it may look harmless, just a few hours on games or endless scrolling through videos, but slowly something more subtle begins to erode. Attention, once the foundation of learning and growth, becomes fragmented. The child struggles to focus on a single task because their mind has been conditioned to jump from one stimulus to the next, always waiting for the next quick hit of novelty. With this comes a weakening of identity. When self-worth is measured by likes, shares, or followers, the child's sense of who they are becomes fragile, dependent on an external mirror that can change without warning. Emotional resilience, too, begins to crack. The smallest setbacks in real life feel overwhelming because the digital world rarely teaches patience, failure, or perseverance. It offers only instant success and constant stimulation. Creativity, which Jung considered a natural expression of the unconscious, suffers as well. Instead of turning inward to imagine, invent, or play, the child consumes endlessly what others have created. The flow of content leaves no space for silence, no room for the unconscious to speak in its own symbolic language. And perhaps most painfully, children drift away from authentic relationships. Conversation at the dinner table becomes shallow, eye contact fades, and genuine human presence is replaced by a curated feed. The digital world promises connection, yet leaves many children lonelier than ever. But Jung's psychology does not leave us in despair. It invites us to act with awareness. The first step is not punishment or blind restriction, but awareness. Parents must open dialogue with their children, not only asking, "How much time are you online?" but "What do you feel when you are online? What are you searching for?" This transforms technology from a forbidden fruit into a subject of reflection, helping the child make the unconscious more conscious. Next comes the establishment of healthy boundaries. The human psyche thrives on rhythm, and children especially need clear structures. Setting specific times for phone use, particularly avoiding screens before bedtime, creates a balance between the digital and the real. These limits are not cages, but guideposts that protect the developing mind from constant overstimulation. Yet, boundaries alone are not enough. A child needs meaningful alternatives, activities that carry symbolic depth and allow the unconscious to express itself. Art, music, reading, and sports all provide spaces where the psyche can project its energy in a healthier way. These pursuits are not distractions. They are outlets that help the child process the rich inner material of dreams, fears, and desires in a constructive form. Jung would have seen them as channels through which the unconscious can emerge into consciousness without being distorted by the addictive pull of technology. And then there is the matter of example. No lecture will matter if the parent spends every evening scrolling endlessly on their own device. Children absorb not only what we say, but what we embody. If parents demonstrate balance, using technology as a tool, not as a master, children are far more likely to follow. In Jungian terms, the parent becomes a model of individuation, showing how to integrate the modern world without being consumed by it. Finally, the heart of Jung's message: balance between the conscious and the unconscious. Technology is not the enemy, but when left unchecked, it feeds the unconscious without allowing it to be integrated into awareness. The role of the parent, then, is to guide the child toward balance, to encourage them to notice their impulses, their boredom, their desire for recognition, and to bring these patterns into the light of consciousness. When a child understands why they reach for the phone, they are no longer simply controlled by it. In this way, Jung's wisdom becomes practical. He reminds us that addiction is not just about behavior, it is about meaning. A child who finds real meaning in life, in relationships, in creative expression, will not need to cling so desperately to the endless scroll. The task is not to banish technology, but to restore depth where the screen offers only surface, to give children a stronger inner compass so that the glowing devices in their hands remain tools, not masters. And when we, as parents and guides, commit to this path, we do more than protect our children from distraction. We help them build the resilience to face a world that will always be full of temptations, and the strength to remain whole in the face of them. In the end, Carl Jung warned us, if we ignore the unconscious, it will rule us. And today, the glowing screen has become its gateway. We have seen how children become addicted not simply because phones are entertaining, but because they speak directly to the unconscious, through images, symbols, and instant rewards. We've explored the consequences, the erosion of focus, the fragility of identity, the weakening of creativity, and the slow drift away from genuine human connection. Yet we've also seen that there is hope, because awareness can change everything. Parents can open conversations, set healthy boundaries, and provide meaningful alternatives. Spaces where a child's unconscious can express itself in art, in play, in relationships that give depth instead of distraction. Protecting a child's mind is not about banning technology. It's about giving them the strength to live beyond it, to use the screen without being consumed by it. So as we close, I leave you with a question worth carrying. Ask yourself, not just what your child is watching, but what their soul is truly searching for.